death of the influencer era, the rise of pro streaming, the illusion versus reality. 33 million viewers, a global phenomenon. Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua on Netflix was supposed to be the biggest influencer fight in history. It promised a new era where YouTubers and TikTok stars could stand toe-to-toe with legends, raking in millions and reshaping combat sports forever. But what if I told you that wasn't the whole story? What if the glitz, the glamour, the monstrous viewership numbers masked a brutal truth? A truth that involves shattered jaws, devastating financial hits, and a stark lesson about who really wins when influencers step into the ring. This isn't just about a boxing match. It's about a seismic shift. And on primetime Frontline today, we're exposing why the influencer boxing era, as we know it, just died a very painful, very expensive death. And what's rising from its ashes might shock you. The Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua. Aftermath. The brutal reality. Let's be blunt. Jake Paul got decimated. Anthony Joshua, a true titan of boxing, reminded everyone what professional power looks like. The internet exploded. Headlines screamed. And many of you thought, well, that's the end of the influencer experiment. And you'd be partially right. But the real story isn't just about a knockout. It's about the knockout blow to a flawed business model. You see, the allure of influencer boxing was always the promise of an easy, massive payday. But the Jake Paul versus AJ fight, despite its unprecedented 33 million Netflix viewers, revealed a very different financial picture. Our sources, deep within the industry, are confirming some shocking numbers. While Netflix might have seen record engagement, the fighters, the ones taking the literal punches, saw their supposed fortunes vanish like smoke. The $68 million lesson, financial fallout and the taxman cometh. Remember the buzz about Jake Paul's guaranteed millions? Here's where the illusion shatters. Industry insiders are now estimating that of the projected $100 million plus revenue generated by this event, including sponsorships, viewership numbers, and ancillary income, the actual take-home for the fighters was a fraction. And here's the kicker that no one is talking about: the IRS. When you operate at this scale, across international borders, with celebrity-level income, the tax implications are astronomical. Reports are now indicating that after all the promoter cuts, the team payouts, the training expenses, and the brutal reality of capital gains, tax and income tax, on such massive earnings, the net profit for both fighters combined was potentially closer to $20 to $30 million total. That's a huge number, yes, but for a global event of this magnitude, and when split between two headliners, it pales in comparison to the hundreds of millions narrative we were sold. Sources close to Paul's camp are suggesting that the effective tax rate alone could have swallowed upwards of $68 million from the overall event revenue pool. Think about that. $68 million. That's not going into the fighters' pockets. It's going to the government. This wasn't just a physical beating. It was a financial one. The physical toll and the end of the charade. Why influencers are quitting. Beyond the balance sheets, there's the brutal physical reality. Jake Paul didn't just lose. He reportedly suffered a broken jaw and multiple contusions. This isn't a YouTube prank. This isn't staged wrestling. This is legitimate bone-crushing combat. And it's left a lot of other influencers asking a very uncomfortable question. Is this truly worth it? We've seen the whispers. KSI, a pioneer of this movement, has been noticeably quieter about his next fight. Logan Paul has pivoted heavily into WWE, a form of entertainment with controlled outcomes and significantly less physical risk. Many smaller influencers who once dreamed of main eventing these cards are now looking at Paul's shattered jaw and the decimated bank accounts and realizing the dream might be a nightmare. This isn't just a guess, folks. We're hearing directly from managers and agents that the phone calls for future influencer fights have dramatically slowed down. The risk-reward ratio, once so heavily skewed towards reward, has flipped. Why subject yourself to potentially life-altering injuries and massive tax bills for a fraction of what you thought you'd make, when you can just make content from the comfort of your studio? The paradox of free content and the new gatekeepers. So, if the influencers are tapping out, what does that mean for the billions of eyes that tuned into Netflix? This is where the story gets even more fascinating, and frankly, a little concerning for the traditional combat sports world. Netflix didn't just broadcast a fight, they collected data. Millions and millions of data points on viewer habits, engagement times, and what kind of hybrid entertainment truly captivates a global audience. They're not just a streaming service anymore, they are the new powerful gatekeepers of attention. And this leads us directly to the birth of something entirely new: pro streaming. The rise of pro streaming. Netflix's strategic play. Forget the influencer novelty act. Netflix, Amazon Prime, and even YouTube are not just dipping their toes into sports anymore. They're building an ocean. What we're witnessing is the pro-streaming revolution. These platforms aren't just buying existing sports leagues. They're investing in, promoting, and potentially even creating their own professional sports content. Think about it. Why pay Jake Paul a massive purse, deal with his controversial antics, and risk a spectacle that might not deliver when you can sign a roster of hungry, professional, dedicated athletes for a fraction of the cost and own the entire production from start to finish? The data from the Paul Joshua fight, despite the outcome, showed Netflix the immense appetite for live combat sports within their subscriber base. This isn't about influencers anymore. It's about professional athletes curated and presented by the world's biggest streaming services. We could see Netflix boxing leagues, Amazon Prime, MMA circuits, or even bespoke YouTube sports franchises featuring legitimate talent. With all the production value these platforms are known for, they want the legitimacy of professional sports, the controlled narrative, and the consistent high-level competition without the unpredictable headaches of internet celebrities. The implications: traditional boxing and MMA's wake-up call. What does this mean for traditional boxing promoters like Top Rank or Matchroom? Or for giants like the UFC? It's a massive wake-up call. These streaming services aren't just competitors. They're fundamentally changing the landscape. They have the audience, the infrastructure, and the data. If they can offer professional fighters better deals, wider reach, and a more consistent platform, where does that leave the old guard? We might see a brain drain of talent moving towards these new pro-streaming entities. It forces traditional promoters to innovate, to offer more, and to compete on a level they've never had to before. The influencer era served a purpose. It proved the demand. But it was a chaotic, often unrefined experiment. Now, the big players are stepping in, taking the lessons learned and professionalizing the entire experience. They're moving from the Wild West of influencer spectacles to the highly curated, polished world of professional, stream-first combat sports. The unseen contract. So, what's next for Jake Paul? With his influencer fighting career seemingly on life support, we're hearing incredibly compelling whispers. Whispers that suggest Paul's manager wasn't just meeting with another combat sports organization after the AJ fight. They were finalizing a different kind of contract. A contract for a different kind of combat. One that throws him into an arena far more brutal, far more unforgiving, and one where his celebrity alone won't save him. Could Jake Paul be about to sign a deal that fundamentally changes his career, pushing him into a legitimate, brutal combat sport where his celebrity won't protect him? A move that could redefine what a fighter truly is in this new streaming landscape. The details are still unfolding, but trust me, when primetime Frontline gets them, you'll be the first to know. What do you think? Is influencer boxing truly dead? Are you ready for the pro streaming revolution? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to stay ahead of every major shift in the sports world, make sure to like this video, subscribe to join the tribe, primetime Frontline, and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss our next expose, where we dive even deeper into Jake Paul's mysterious next move. Until then, keep it locked on primetime Frontline.